what's happening. Why do big updates at all? Why not just release everything in small bites? So it's kind of like, unfortunately, two ways here, because there's also the aspect that we need to put out our game, and we also need to think about, it sounds shitty, but it's, it's part of the industry. We also have to think about how do we keep continuing the sales of Satisfactory. We also try to figure out, like, okay, we have a big player base, and we want to nurture that player base, but we also want to keep drawing in new players. So having bigger updates is the best way, really, to draw in new players to the game. Like, having a big release of updates really draws in new players, and unfortunately also keeping that kind of updates like secret and making a big splash once it's revealed also draws in a lot more players, but it also kind of alienates the current ones during the process of making that update. So there's a really difficult decision there on what the correct balance is for that, and that's mainly the reason why we're not telling you guys everything right now. We could tell you everything that's coming in 1.0, or what we think are gonna come, but the problem with that is also we build expectations that we may not deliver, just because of various reasons, either because we didn't feel like we could, and we don't want to make promises. We don't want to say that there's going to be unlimited resources in the game, in the sense that you can build how far. There are always going to be limitations to the game, and there's also going to be limitations of how far we can go into each mechanic and stuff like that. The few things that we know for sure are stuff like we are going to have signs. We know that we're going to have a better train system, the signaling. We're going to have some form of signaling system, or collision, or something like that for trains in the game at some point. And there are certain things that we know for sure that we want to work on, and that's the reason why there is no direct roadmap, because the main reason why we don't have a roadmap is because we don't want to limit ourselves to time, timestamps. We could say this is what we think the games can contain, but the thing that we're kind of hesitant about is that we don't want to set up we're going to expect to release an update every so often or whatever, because we really do want to take the time we feel like we need to be able to implement stuff. And the fallacy of the roadmap is that it creates these situations where we feel like we need to get stuff out, and that makes us crunch. So update 3 was unfortunately a bit of a crunch period for us, which isn't how we want to work. It creates a deadline that, even though we say we shouldn't crunch, and we shouldn't. The problem with that is that then we need to delay, and then you get the splash from that, with it being it's frustrating. We don't want to delay stuff because it's frustrating for everyone. So we'd rather dish out things as we know, when we feel like we are capable of dishing them out.